Hey, good morning. Welcome to NFThesis. I'm Anthony Shepard, and let's talk about some NFTs and DAOs. I, oddly enough, have a bit more experience with DAOs, and I didn't really think I'd be getting into that very much on NFThesis, but I could be wrong because all of these things are very tied together, and any NFT community will invariably become some kind of an organization, whatever that looks like. And the most common decentralized autonomous organizations built around blockchain technologies are DAOs. NFTs are not truly DAOs because they are still centered around an artist or a creator or some kind of centralized factor for the most part. Although we are seeing some interesting dynamics in the space because it's a really cool space and there's always interesting dynamics, and all of the classical organizational forms that we're used to are going to be here, but there's also going to be a lot more new things being born. That is a very interesting conversation just about all these different things. I could go any number of directions, and I really didn't think too much about my organization here. Uh, Part of the reason I'm not doing overly written episodes at this point is because once I start to write things, I take a little too long. I want to think it out. I want to go really in depth and do my research and all that stuff. And I kind of like this format of just being able to say what's on my mind and fix it as we go. I like learning in public with you like this because it gives me an opportunity to make mistakes and have someone correct me. It gives me, I don't know, I think it leaves the door open for trolls, obviously, but hopefully it leaves the door open for good conversations, more importantly. So I'm going to go off my head again with this one. And when I go off my head, I'm not just like making things up. I actually do a lot of research. I just like to form my opinions and, work from that basis. I don't know. That kind of sounds ignorant, but that's not. I'm doing a lot of research and I really am learning things, but I don't want to sit here and do all of the research going all the way through the past and the history and all these things. I'd rather just look at it kind of in a way that anyone's going to see it coming up to it. Because in a lot of ways, with the narratives being so important in this place, it almost doesn't matter what actually happened. It matters a lot on the public perception of what's going on, unfortunately. So I will flesh a lot of these ideas out, and I will get better at organizing my thoughts as things go on. And the reason I'm not doing it now is because I want to move fast and I want to be able to have conversations in real time. So I was talking about SOS, and that same week or right around that week, there was gas airdrop. So to recap, SOS was spent on OpenSea. It was a bunch of tokens that were dropped to anyone who had spent money or traded on OpenSea. Very fair release drop. Anyone who was eligible, which is anybody who spent on OpenSea, was able to go claim their tokens that were proportionally matched to the amount that they had spent on OpenSea some kind of way. I don't know the metrics on that. I'm guessing that the code has been audited by this time, that people realize it isn't a rug pull. So after these coins were dropped, obviously a lot of people just cashed out immediately for ETH. A lot of people came together with OpenDAO, which is who took credit for the drop of some sort. I believe there are some community members who are saying that they know the devs that created the token drop and they're part of it. But for the most part, the OpenDAO is a bunch of people who were given these tokens who came together as a DAO to worry about the future of what SOS would mean. And that's very interesting to me. If you've seen my TikTok and my Instagram videos about this, it's very interesting to me because these people are, it's a really huge airdrop because these people have all just used OpenSea and bought NFTs. So you've touched a larger community than almost any other airdrop in history. But the problem being that it's still just an airdrop of free tokens, and a lot of the people who got these tokens, a lot of people in NFTs in general, are just here to make money, to pump and dump. They don't care about community. They don't care about artists and NFT projects. They care to make some money. And when NFTs that they buy into don't go up, they're the first people to get toxic in the channels. They're the first people to complain about a project because they expect these projects to only go up. And a lot of these projects don't. So when you have a DAO built around an NFT, or in this case, around a token that represents everyone who buys on OpenSea, then you don't really have a whole lot of aligned incentive. But regardless, I've seen a lot of people in OpenDAO that I respect, and I see them trying to build. I see them trying to do things. I see that SOS is now being staked. So there is a strong community behind this thing trying to make SOS into something. And they want to provide compensation for people who have been defrauded on OpenSea by scammers or whatever. Mostly for poor user, or I don't know, poor. Is anybody in NFTs poor? That's a bad word. You know, not whales. They're not looking, you know, if you got a lot of money and you got scammed, like, sorry, we're not really here to help you. But they want to help out the smaller users that haven't spent as much and do get scammed and end up losing everything, because those are the people that will leave the space quicker. And we don't want people leaving the space because they got scammed. I don't know in the larger structure of how they're doing things, how this is going to look, but it is a more noble effort than a lot of projects. And it looks like a lot of people there that want to do things, but there are also a lot of people in the channel that are just there to talk about numbers. And I don't know what that means overall for the larger community, because as a DAO builds up the value of this project, will there be, it does it even matter now if the developers and the code is made to rug if most of your community is made to rug? So that's the problem with something that's too fair launch, is it's so fair that everybody, most of your community is just going to be a dumper, and that's going to be constant downward pressure on the SOS token. Likewise, that same week, gas token gets dropped. Now, I know this isn't NFT, but it is related in the sense that it's a similar type of fair drop. And gas seems like an even worse metric for community, because this is actually, I guess this is an even bigger set of people who have been touched, because everybody pays gas, whether you're using NFTs or not. If you're using DeFi on Ethereum, you've paid gas. So that is kind of bigger, but I don't know as many people who went for that. And maybe it's because whatever, maybe people who do DeFi aren't as speculative on these like random weird airdrops. They're more worried about the legitimate airdrops that they know are legitimate. So that brings us to, and once again, that's not saying anything bad about Gas DAO. Could be some great people working over there. I have not paid attention to Gas DAO in the same way that I did SOS. So I truly have no idea what they're building or what that community looks like. That brings us to the next NFT project, which is Looks Rare, did an airdrop. Now this airdrop was a little different because they only airdropped to people who had spent or traded in over 3 ETH. So you've definitely created a barrier to where it's not just every person who's traded on Looks Rare. Or no, I think they even did it by OpenSea. So Looks Rare airdrop to everyone who had spent over or transacted over 3 ETH on OpenSea. This cuts out a lot of people, but I don't know if it necessarily cuts out the right people, in the sense that just because you've traded over 3 ETH, doesn't mean you're a better quality of contributor. It does mean that you have more money and you've been in this space longer, because if you have 3 ETH that you bought in the last year, you had to have had a good bit of money. But if you have 3 ETH because you've been in since 2017, then, this isn't really a big deal to you. So it does set this barrier to where you're either going to be a whale or old school Ethereum person, and probably not a lot of newcomers. I don't know if that makes for a better community, but it's a gate for whatever metric that means. But the difference here is that where SOS, you're able to stake your SOS tokens, I'm assuming from more SOS. With Looks Rare, you're able to stake your Looks token for wrapped ether, which gives people massive incentive to hold their Looks token and stake it. Now, what the community around this looks like, I have no idea. But when SOS dropped, a lot of the most reputable people in the industry were very, what the hell is SOS? And when Looks dropped, everybody knew what it was instantly. And I don't know if that's because they actually know the developers, or everyone has just been paying attention to this project that much. If so, that's kind of strange, because no one has really spoken a whole lot about Looks Rare as far as I recall. I don't remember a lot of talking about Looks Rare till now. So I don't remember it being on any airdrop lists I had looked over. So I don't think anyone was speculating that this was going to be a big popular airdrop. These are very interesting projects that we're going to have to just see how they develop between SOS, Gas, Looks. They all have very different incentives. They all have very different aims, very different ways of coming about. And that's interesting. And I guess I'm going to have to get in the Discord channels for Looks Rare and Gas to really find out what's going on with those DAOs. And hopefully I can interview some people from SOS, Gas, and Looks at some point to get some clarity from the people involved, whoever that might be, even if it is just someone from the sidelines who's paying a lot of attention, or core contributors to whatever degree that is. Another couple of projects I'm involved with are, I guess I'll get into the shallow end, then the deep end. And so on the more shallow end, I guess you could say there's NFT communities around projects in which these communities play games and hang out and have good time. And I really think that's a cool idea. Obviously, being friends with the people in a project is really important for maintaining a large community, I guess. You're going to want people that like to be around each other. You're going to want people that aren't just here because the project is worth a lot of money, but actually genuinely like each other. You don't want to be in a project where you like the artwork, but the community is something that you don't want to interact with. So that's really cool. I throw those in there because they're not exactly DAOs, but they do throw it out to the community to help make decisions and bring up ideas. And there are a lot of community initiatives, whether it be art contests, games, uh, town hall meeting type situations where you get together just like you would in any other community where you have large get-togethers of everyone. Snapshot voting for people who hold the project based, and usually snapshot voting is going to be based around something important. You're not going to just snapshot vote, you know, useless things most of the time. Which brings me into larger NFT DAOs. And I guess in this case, I can talk about, you know, I know Axie Infinity probably has things like this, but I don't personally know a whole lot about it. I know of, for instance, Human DAO, which is a group of people who are trying to form an organization around play to earn with Axie Infinity in order to help people in more impoverished countries to make a living this way. And I know Aavegotchi has an ambassador program that may or may not be similar to what the Human DAO is doing. I'm not really familiar with it, but I am familiar with the Aavegotchi DAO. And the way that that works is, just loosely, Aavegotchi is a play to earn game. You buy NFT characters, you buy NFT parcels. It is related to Aave in the sense that you need AM tokens to be able to summon your Aavegotchi for the first time, and there's a certain amount of AM tokens that stay in your Aavegotchi forever. This game is being built with the help of the community via the DAO. And the way that looks is a lot of forum proposals, a lot of snapshots, and a lot of community discussion around the way things should look, the way they will look. And whenever community discussion doesn't line up with the technical end of things, there's more discussion around how to resolve those situations. There are meetings every Saturday morning at, I believe it's 7 a.m. EST. Every weekend there's a live Aavegotchi community call where things are talked about, alpha is dropped. There's a lot of incentivization via XP points for playing side games, for voting on proposals, and it is a very active community because not only do we all want to provide value to the game that is not even here yet but being built, we want to provide value to this community, but you're able to help build up your character's XP by being a member of the DAO and actually contributing. And that's why so many people are content creators for Aavegotchi, because it's really, you want people to know what's going on, and it is a lot to keep track of, and it is really cool. So it's interesting because most DAOs are centered around business and getting things done, and most NFT projects are focused around number goes up, get out as quick as you can. And Aavegotchi is in this middle position where it's like, well, this is a game and it's NFTs, but we want to build this thing up together as a community and have it be worth something, and we're all here to stay. So we've bought land and we've bought our character, and now we're going to come out here and tell you about it because we think this thing is so cool. So I think it's a really powerful NFT DAO community, and I think we will likely see more things like this happen in the future, to the degree that a game wants to be decentralized. If you're a creator that doesn't want community input, then DAOs are not for you. And maybe NFTs are not for you, because I think I'll close this off with a negative of this kind of a situation, and actually how maybe a creator is not the most important aspect of a thing. and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But the Pudgy Penguins, from what I understand, the Pudgy Penguin NFT project, the creators no longer want to be a part of it. The creators and the community have a huge separation in values, and the creators want to get out of the project and have tried to sell it to someone else. So it would be interesting to see if a project can be taken over by someone else and become stronger than the original inception of the project. This would be similar to kind of what's happened with SushiSwap, where SushiSwap is one of these DeFi protocols that began as a vampire attack. It began as forked code. It even had a strong rug in the beginning where someone stole a bunch of the funds, and the community picked up SushiSwap and the project and began building. And now Sushi is a very strong project, and it's very different from where it originally began. So you could see things like this forming around a failing NFT project where the community is just that invested in it that they're not willing to let it go, even if the creators are. But you would have to be given the admin keys to some degree. And I guess that is what they're trying to sell, is passwords, administrative rights, emails, whatever it might be. And it's really interesting to see things like that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to dump all these thoughts out there about SOS, Gas, Looks, Avagachi, Pudgy Penguins, and just any, great community you're involved in. And I have avoided talking too much directly about projects because, like I said, I don't want to seem like I am shilling you anything, and I don't want to seem like I'm talking bad about anyone at all. But I will have to start talking more about projects specifically, and I'm just really trying to establish in these early episodes that I mean no harm, and I'm definitely not meaning this to be financial advice, just having fun and talking some cool stuff with you. So thanks for joining me for NFThesis, and I'll see you again very soon. Good morning.